kind of jumping right in, I mean, Ustad Ji plays both sides of the battle, right? Between Malika Jan and Faridan. So, as your, personal outlook on your character, which side do you think he was actually on, and which one do you think he was just kind of playing the game?
Faridan's side. He was absolutely, he had a soft corner for Faridan. But being a vulnerable, a gullible, a person with a very shady background,
Yeah.
how he was born, how he must have been exploited in his
Mm.
younger days. I think he was closer to Faridan than
Okay.
Malika Chan. Because in the introduction scene, he has been seen abusing Malika Chan.
Yes, that's true. So it makes you wonder how much he genuinely was there on Malika Jan's side versus Faridan's side, right?
He was more closer to Faridan and other people than Malika Chan.
Okay.
I think so.
So there's also a scene in the series where Faridan, is giving him a nut, right? And it almost symbolizes Ustad Ji's femininity in his character. So what do you want audiences to be able to take away from Ustad Ji's character? Because he's incredibly complex as someone on screen. And we see a lot of him, but I was wishing for more just so we could get a little bit more backstory of who Ustad Ji was. So, what do you think audiences should take away from him?
See, as far as I think, Ustad Ji, the character in itself, the kind of briefing I got, whatever I could, think about that particular character, 1940s Lahore.
Mhm.
Pardon the lightning and thunder.
No worries.
1940s in Lahore, and must have been born out of wedlock. Somebody might have thrown him somewhere. He doesn't have a background.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't know whom he was born to, the siblings, the parents. Like any other child, you're aware of your identity.
Mm.
So the character Ustad Ji lacked, he was looking for his identity whole his life. And but the humane element, the warmth was there. He really wanted to be loved. He really wanted to
Yeah.
be accepted. He really wanted, somebody should love him, somebody of his own. So when she puts that nut, that symbolizes that she has accepted him, given him honor,
Yeah.
given him that love, that affection. It was a gesture full of warmth. When a prostitute giving nuts to another one, and that also a character like Ustad Ji, is a big thing.
Yeah.
So I think something melted inside him, some warmth that he was always looking for. Who is going to give him that love? A man or a woman? He was craving for it. That craving subsided for a moment. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's what I felt personally.
Yeah, no, and it was an incredibly powerful scene. And that actually brings me to my next question, right? Because you're saying he's looking for warmth, he's looking for that comfort, and you really see him give that to Aurangzeb's character in the last episode,
Yes,
where
yes.
in the end scene, he explains to her that he's helped raise her, and he really wishes that she would take revenge for Tajdar's death. So with his, place with Aurangzeb and the fact he was there with her since the very beginning, how do you think Ustad Ji was part of Heeramandi's system, right? How do you think he was a part of her, childhood and raising her, and not only Aurangzeb, but every other courtesan that was part of that area, part of that system?
As I told you, this character, particularly Ustad Ji, must have gone through a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Must have gone through a lot, during his younger days, his upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
There was only way he could survive was keeping, one of the way he could survive was keeping the secrets of the prostitutes, uh, you know, uh, uh, kind of bringing their, their daughters, their sons who were born out of wedlock,
Yeah.
bringing their children, kind of must have spent time with people like Alamzeb from her younger days.
Yeah.
Must have developed that that uh, uh, love and affection, like when you grow up with someone of your within the family. So the whole
Yeah.
Heeramandi became his family. He had nothing. He knew nothing more than dealing with Heeramandi, and that's how he could survive. He had no education. He had no technical knowledge. Where else he could have gone? There was
Yeah.
no other way.
Yeah. And I want to bring it to, I
Yeah.
know this must be one of your most asked questions, but I was thinking of it from a different lens, which is the intimate scene that you have with Jason Shaw, right? And, his character of Cartwright. And it's really interesting.
Everyone has asked me that question. Everyone has asked this.
So I hope I have a different angle for you because the way I was thinking of it is what is the coordination of that on set, right? Because in the US, we have something called intimacy coordinators, which is becoming quite big in India. So was that something that was there on set to help you understand the dynamics of it with crew and cast, et cetera, and production?
When you work with a genius like Sanjay Leela Bhansali, uh, a wonderful person, a wonderful director, a very knowledgeable man,
Yeah.
uh, you know, keeping in mind all the nuances and minutest of the details. He's a cinematic genius.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate to work with him in his second project. I did Gangubai before
Yeah.
Heeramandi and got a lot of adulation and love. And he was artist being comfortable until and unless an artist who's performing such complex role with loads of shades,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, with loads of layers, he himself is a very, very sensitive person. So I had a lot of confidence. I mean, I love him. He was showing a lot of confidence in me. And me and Jason, we talked to each other before, the scene was supposed to be shot. And we discussed each other to make each other comfortable because I've
Yeah.
never been to I mean, I've never done such kind of scene and been so close to a male before.
Yeah.
So I was little hesitant. I was little skeptical. So we talked about it. We made each other comfortable. We discussed the scene and we discussed the nuances. And we had this confidence. There is Sanjay Leela Bhansali taking care of us. We were in safe hands. Yes.
And that's wonderful to hear. And it kind of makes me think of, what you're saying, where you had this was something new for you and you had never really done it before in terms of a scene, where you're not only being directed by Sanjay Leela Bansali, but you're also understanding the coordination of intimate scenes.
Very intelligent briefing was given about the character, and I was
Okay.
I was allowed to improvise within the protocol, within the proximity, within the scenario. That was very nice of him. So I could go with the flow. It didn't take much of effort. We were a little bit skeptical, nervous, but once we discussed, it was not that difficult at all.
Yeah. And again, like you're saying, with a brief and with an understanding, it can be really helpful, right? To kind of see the scene in action before it's really even getting created. And that leads me to my follow-up question is I've seen you in television for years. You were part of the television industry for a very, very long time. And
yes, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it.
yes, and I think, being a part of the television industry, my question for you is, what is the difference between working, every day on a television industry set, right? Where you don't really get those days off versus it being translated into a series where, yes, it is a show, but it is all shot all at one time where you're not on a set for 1 or 2 years, periodically. This is kind of shot almost like a film. So, what is the differences for you personally between both sets?
I was supposed to shoot Heeramandi, and the contract said I'm required for 22 days, but I shot for approximately 2 years.
Oh, wow.
One.
Okay.
Second,
Okay.
second, I had the same honesty when I did my first TV serial,
Yeah.
and the same honesty when I did my first film, my first OTT. So when you're honest towards your work, your approach is honest, and it helps you to make it believable. The audience will relate to you if you're honest to your art and your work. So I
Yeah.
have always been very honest, and my unawareness and my vulnerability, my being gullible and not a technically trained actor, works for me. I go with the flow. I go with the instinct. I surrender. I'm a director's actor. So once my director is happy, I'm more than.
That's really interesting to hear that you were signed for 22 days but ended up going for 2 years. And
Approximately, if I'm not wrong. Huh?
so that's does it ever like take you back to your television days, where you were like, wow, I'm on one set for such a long period of time?
In TV serials, if a character is not acceptable by the people,
Mm,
it can be removed, it can be edited, it can be, you know, taken away, and it's new people coming, new stories coming. So it's a different world altogether.
yeah.
But when it comes to an actor like me, I try to give my 100%, if not less.
It's wonderful to see, not only your journey, but also like the character of Ustad Ji. I was very invested in his character watching the show and watching the series. And I loved the nut scene. I felt like it was a great portrayal of someone who had finally found a friend in the world of Heeramandi. And it made me feel happy for Ustad Ji that he had someone that he could really speak with, which
Thank, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
that really made me think of my first question, which was, what side was he really on? Because Malika John really just kind of used him for her own purposes, but Fari then became a friend. And that to me was the big differences between both characters, which I loved. I loved the complexity of his character all in
Yes,
all. So
yes.
thank you so much for speaking with me. Those were all of my questions for you. Um,
Thank you so much for inviting me for this talk, for this video talk. I really feel honored.
Thank you. And I know you had network difficulties, so I really appreciate it.
Come
And
on, God wanted us to do this interview, so the rain stopped and the signals, the network, was fine, and now without interruption we could finish it. So I think a lot of adulation and love of my from my fans all over the world, globally, and Almighty. Thank you, God.
yeah, it worked out perfectly. So just to let you know a little bit of logistics just for the next couple of minutes. So this will be a video interview and we will have little reels and clips of it go up on our social media. So I handle the social media account for Urban Asians. So I will be tagging you in some of the posts so you can see and share it as you would like. And then I will send the full link of the full interview to Prerna as well. So she can send you the full link that will go up on our YouTube channel.
Thank you, and honestly, I thank all my friends and my family, my wife, my mom, my kids, my brother, his wife, his family, all my friends wholeheartedly. When your own friends recognize your work, your efforts, it's so assuring. It's more than an award.
Yeah.
So at times I was choked when my childhood friends and co-actors and biggest of the people from all over the globe, they complimented me. So I just wanted to thank a couple of my friends, Gauri, Timmy, Shilpi, Perry, Sharad, Puneet, Aishwarya, a lot of them, a lot of them. Thank you so much for being there.
That's great. I think having that kind of friendship and support system, I think is a better way of saying it, is really helpful. Especially in
I'm
the
blessed with wonderful, wonderful people around. Blessed.
That's wonderful to hear. I'm so glad to hear that. So thank you so much. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you
And I hope
once again.